Hi everyone, this is Abigail Runk. This is our second discussion for Liberty University's American Christian Heritage class. As we were looking into the denominations and various traditions and sub-traditions, one that stood out to me was the idea of the itinerant ministers that we're seeing with the Methodists and the Presbyterians. Itinerant ministers essentially were those individuals who traveled to locations, held camp meetings around the area. They did have some famous individuals such as Finney and Whitfield, but one in particular that struck me was the one minister, Frank Higgins, we read about in Hagg's article. And Frank E. Higgins was known as the lumberjack sky pilot, was a minister to the logging camps up in northern Minnesota, the Bemidji area, Duluth, etc. He had hoped to minister to them long before he actually started the ministry. He began as a Methodist pastor, was eventually ordained by the Presbyterian Church in 1902, but part of what helped his ministry was the fact that he was willing to work among the men. He could do everything the men did and gain their respect. Thus, he was able to be a model of what he was preaching while being able to have their respect as a critic. One crystalline experience that he had doing this ministry is mentioned within Hagg's article that says while he took an elderly man to a hospital, the man, when he was told there was nothing they could do and he was going to die, told Higgins that I'd heard you preach many years ago, it changed my life and you really need to keep doing it. Thus, starting the mission to the lumbermen up in northern Minnesota. The Journal of Presbyterian History did an article essentially furthering Hagg's research and summarizing it, whereby they discussed additional men that had been recruited after Higgins had finished the ministry. They discussed how they helped to build permanent churches and settlements to the areas of the camp. But one thing particularly interesting was a song that was dedicated to Higgins and the lumberjacks that this article, known as The Legacy of the Sky Pilots by the Presbyterian Journal of Presbyterian History, is called The Heavenly Trail. It's quoted in full, and it has a chorus where it actually says, "Strike the trail, boys, strike the trail, it starts at the foot of the cross," which helped demonstrate part of the ministry in the sense that it was simple language, it was used by the sky pilots, used by the loggers, so everyone understood it. It was essentially layman's language, and that way they could reach the people that they interacted with. Which really, in a sense, ties into advice that James Porter, who was a Methodist itinerant minister in 1847, ties into the advice that he wrote. He calls itinerant ministers to sacrifice, and it says that they have 4 qualities. They must be men of genuine piety, men who are really converted to God. They must be called of God to the office and work of the ministry. Education, however polished, is not sufficient, nor extraordinary talents, nor even personal piety. It must be a divine call. Ministers must be well instructed in the science of salvation. So it isn't necessarily education, which was something that held Higgins back originally. It must be their conversion and their experiences is what calls them into this particular ministry. And the final quality that Porter says they must have is men who will preach Christ at whatever sacrifice are the men for itinerancy. Though it is due to the minister that he be completely supported, and this is necessary to his greatest usefulness, yet it should not be the condition of his preaching. So his ability to work among his men additionally helped support himself and gain that further respect, which is where instead of having a minister who is higher than the flock, you have a minister who is essentially equal with the flock, which ties also back into the worldview principles of Liberty University, particularly 1 through 3, as these ministers were essentially teaching these ideas, which is God is comprehensively sovereign over the nations, Jesus Christ is central in human history, and God has established order, intelligence, and truth in the universe and history. I look forward to talking with everyone again and seeing your posts. I hope you have a good day.